Here is why Kansas City is the worst.
The worst!
And you should not move here. If you are thinking about moving to Kansas City, I have 10 reasons why you should avoid Kansas City at all costs. The first one is the crime. We live in an area of Kansas City called Midtown. And during the summers, especially when school is out, we have a group of neighborhood boys who go around asking for chores that they can do to earn extra pocket money, mowing your lawn, weed whacking. We typically will give them some popsicles, maybe we'll let them mow our lawn one. But last summer, these boys came around and it was August and they were all really quiet. And you could tell that something had happened to them that was pretty traumatic. So we were outside playing with our boys and we talked to them and said, hey, what's going on? You guys seem like you're out of sorts a little bit. And one of them told us that they were in the park that is in our neighborhood called Blue Hills Park, and they actually physically saw a dead body that was there. And this was all over the news. It was August of 2022. There was a dispute between two people. One of them was shot and left for dead. They found the suspect, but this is literally a block away from my house. And these things happen on the regular in Kansas City. It is one of the most dangerous cities in America. If you were following the news this year, in April 2023, there was a young 16-year-old teenager who was shot just because he went to the wrong house and somebody shot him through the door. Crime in Kansas City is a real problem. It is a reality that a lot of people here don't like. Kansas City as a whole is working to make this better, but it's not there yet, and it still remains one of the more dangerous cities in America. Reason number 2 that you may not want to move to Kansas City is house issues. We live in a house with a basement. Now, a basement is always a nice plus because you have storage, you have a place to go if you have a tornado or a bad storm or something like that. However, a basement introduces a whole bunch of maintenance issues that you wouldn't have if you didn't have a basement. I moved from California, and in California, people rarely had basements. Basements come with issues, comes with flooding issues, comes with foundation issues. In fact, look at this clip of what happens when it rains really hard in my basement. Now, if you're coming from a different place in the Midwest where basements are common, then you'll be used to this. But if you're coming from the West Coast and other areas like that where basements are not common, you're going to want to get ready for house issues. A few months ago, there was a crazy storm that uprooted a whole bunch of trees in Kansas City. Now, if you're not from a place with mature trees pose a very real threat to your house, especially if there's a huge tree right next to your house. The next storm could blow it over. We have a tree in our yard right now. I look at it all the time and I know that I'm going to have to take a few branches down because a few branches are dead. And guess what? Those branches hang right over my wife's garden beds. So before next spring, we're going to have to hire somebody to climb that massive tree and to take down those branches. And you know what? It's going to cost us money. We got a few quotes. It's anywhere from $900 to $2,000 to do that, and that's super annoying. If you're not coming from a place with mature trees, you're not going to be used to that. Also, our soil here shifts a lot, and that can damage your sewer lines. At my rental property in Gladstone, our sewer line is consistently backing up, and I've had to pour at least $3,000 literally down the drain in fixing that. Which leads us to reason number 3, and it's the tornadoes. Before we moved out here from Los Angeles, we had people tell us all the time, hey, watch out for the tornadoes. Watch out for the tornadoes. As if we could do something about the tornadoes, right? There's nothing that we can do. The only thing that you can do is to get into your basement, get into your cellar, get into your storm shelter, and just kind of hold on and wait till the tornado to pass. Now, are they super common? I don't think they're super common. I've talked to a whole bunch of people who have lived here their entire lives, and they never seen a tornado. We've never seen a tornado. We had one tornado warning. In June of 2022, there was a tornado that actually touched down not too far from where we live right now. When that tornado touched down, my client actually claimed it touched down on his property. Luckily, nobody was hurt, but they saw exactly where it touched down, damaged the grass, damaged the trees. Right there. If you're not used to stuff like that, you may not want to live in Kansas City, in a place where tornadoes can touch down and just wipe out your house just like that. Now, again, does it happen all the time? No, it doesn't, but that's something you're going to want to know. So that leads us to the number 4 reason why you may not want to move here, and that is the weather. The weather here is not that great. It's super hot and humid in the summers and can get super, super cold in the winters.
Dad, I'm cold. Dad, I'm freezing.
If you're coming from a place where it's perpetually summer like Southern California or Florida, then you're not gonna like the weather here, especially during the winters. It took me a long time for my body to get acclimated to the Midwest weather here. Now, right now, it's beautiful. It's fall, it's October. But that's not always going to be the case. I bet you in a month or maybe a month and a half from now, it's going to be nasty here. It's going to snow. It's going to get below freezing maybe. Who knows? It can get super, super cold. Another thing that you're not going to like is the lack of natural beauty here in Kansas City. Now, you have some areas like Smithville Lake, you have some other lakes and ponds around the metro, but there is nothing like the Rocky Mountains. There is nothing like the Pacific Ocean. You're gonna have to get used to it if you come to Kansas City. It is flat here. It is not that hilly. You don't have mountains as a backdrop. I grew up in the San Gabriel Valley, where the San Gabriel Mountains were always back there, and it was beautiful. The beach was only 30 to 45 minutes away, and it was wonderful. But here, you got nothing like that. The best thing that you've got is that the leaves on the trees change with the seasons, and that's nice, but that's nothing like the natural beauty that you could have in other places in America. The sixth reason that you may want to avoid Kansas City is the commute. Driving here is not the best. It is getting better. They're trying to build better infrastructure, but right now, this infrastructure cannot accommodate the number of people that we have moving here every year, the number of people that we have relocating here from all areas of the country. If you come here and you don't have a car, you better budget to get one, because there is no way you're gonna get around the metro without a car.
Dude, where's my car? Where's your car, dude? Dude, there's your car.
The public transportation here is not great. You're not going to be able to get from place to place just using public transportation. You're going to need a car. Another thing you're not going to like is the street signs here can be super confusing. I've lived here for 4 years and I still get confused. I take a wrong turn because I don't know where the street sign is actually directing me, especially on the interstates.
It can't mean that. There's a lake there.
I think it knows where it is going.
This is the
The
lake.
machine
This
knows.
is the lake.
Stop yelling at me.
No, it's
Stop
up there.
yelling.
There's no road here.
Speaking of the interstates, you're gonna see random people just walking on the shoulder on the interstates. When I lived in California, I could maybe count on one hand the number of times I've seen that. Now living here in Kansas City, I see people walking on the side of the interstate monthly, maybe even weekly. I have no clue what they're doing. And it's super dangerous, especially at night, because if you don't see them, then that's definitely a hazard to them and to you. But it is a common thing here in Kansas City. The transportation here is not great. And guess what? There's construction going on basically everywhere in the metro right now. So if you want to be somewhere, factor in a 5 to 10 minute construction delay. It's super annoying. That brings me to my next reason, and that is we only have one airport. If you want to travel to a different state for work, or if you want to travel to a different country, you better choose carefully where you live in the metro. If you have to frequently travel, the airport is in the northwest quadrant of the Kansas City metro. If you live somewhere down southeast like Lee's Summit, it's going to take you a long time to get all the way up to the Kansas City airport. If you live somewhere like Blue Springs, it's going to take you a long time to get to the Kansas City airport. Now, it's doable, but if you have a job where you frequently need to travel from state to state or from country to country, you're probably not going to want to live south of the river. Now, there are other airports around the metro, but you're typically not going to use them if you need to get anywhere. Unless you've got those big bucks and you can afford that private jet, you're probably not going to fly out of anywhere except for the Kansas City airport. The next reason you may not want to move to Kansas City is that old traditions die hard with Kansas City residents. Now, if you don't know what that means, let me tell you two stories that I think really illustrate this. The first story is when I was showing a house in Liberty, I sat down with the seller of that house who grumbled and complained about the fact that Liberty wasn't like the Liberty of old. It wasn't like the Liberty where he was raised. It wasn't like the Liberty where he raised his kids, which was a small town. He was really upset and grumbling and complaining about the fact that so many people had moved to Liberty and that Liberty had just blown up and it was a huge city now. And he was upset at that. He really hated that. And he treated every person who came into his house to see it with some type of contempt and disrespect. And it's understandable. People don't like change. Another story takes place when I was picking up something off of Facebook Marketplace down in Olathe. Now, our family loves to shop on Facebook Marketplace. We hate paying full price for anything. And so we're always hunting for those deals. You know, you got to be willing and dealing if you want to get kid stuff, especially on the cheap. And so I drive down to this lady's house in Olathe and I'm picking up some stuff for my son and for my sons to play with. and I struck up a conversation with her. And she had been in Johnson County for a long time, and I told her, oh yeah, you know, we're newer to the area, we're only 4 years in Kansas City. And she said, well, did you move to the Missouri side? And I said, yeah, we've lived in the Missouri side, we lived in Gladstone, now we live in Blue Hills. And her demeanor completely changed. She's like, I think Missouri is everything that is wrong with Kansas City.
It's very rude.
And she kind of abruptly ended the conversation and left. And I thought that was wild, that somebody who lived in Johnson County doesn't like the Missourians. It's not just the Johnson County, it's not just the Kansas residents that don't like the Missouri residents. The old-timey Missouri residents don't like the Kansas residents. And there's an ongoing feud between Kansas and Missouri that dies hard because these old traditions are still in place. Now, if you're moving here from different areas of the country, you're not going to have a dog in the fight, right? 'Cause I don't care. You're gonna find the place that works best for you, whether it's in Kansas or Missouri. But just know that there are still people here that are super passionate about the fact that Missourians are the worst, or that the Kansas side is horrible. You're gonna wanna know that when moving here, because old traditions die hard. We still have a few more reasons to get to, but if you're still looking to move to Kansas City, give us a call, 816-4MOVE-KC. Call or text us anytime. We would be happy to help you. We have people relocating from all over the place. I myself am a California transplant. We're helping people move from California, Utah, Oregon, New York, South Carolina, Florida. All of these people have found us through this YouTube channel and reached out. Call, text, email. We promise we will get back to you within the day. Also, we have agents who speak Spanish. So if you want a Spanish-speaking agent, we can help you. And if you stay until the very end of this video, I have a bonus reason for you single people out here who are considering moving to Kansas City. Okay, so the next reason that you may want to avoid Kansas City is the food diversity is not great here. Now, let me explain, because I have YouTube comments all the time saying, oh, you don't know where to look. If you're not going to these places, if you're not going to these places. Yes, I know that Wyandotte County has super good Mexican food. Yes, I know that Johnson County has super good Asian food, and that there's also super good Asian food down in City Market. I know those things. However, when you're coming from a place like Los Angeles, like where I'm from, where you have all the food that you could possibly want within a 10-minute radius, driving 20 to 25 minutes to get the food that you want sounds like a big deal for you. And not to mention the fact that In-N-Out Burger is still not here yet. You know, when I was living in Los Angeles, I would eat In-N-Out Burger at least once a week because we lived 4 minutes away. Especially when my wife was pregnant, she would get those pregnancy cravings, you know, those late night cravings. 1 a.m., 2 a.m., you could go down to In-N-Out Burger and you could get a double and you could bring it back home and you could chow down. You could gain a whole bunch of calories. You could shorten your lifespan 10 years by doing that, because all those calories late at night, you know how it is, right?
I'm going to die.
But here in Kansas City, you're not going to find that. You're not going to get that. Of course, you can go find all the different types of food that you want, but you know what? It's going to be a lot more limited if you're coming from a Los Angeles, if you're coming from a Houston, if you're coming from a New York. All these places that have all these diverse cultures that have been there for a long, long time, that have established these super good eateries. You know the ones where they brought their own pots and pans over from their country and they're still using them. They've been passed down through the generations and they're still using them to cook on. You're not going to find a lot of those places here in Kansas City. They exist, but sometimes you're going to need to drive to get to them. And guess what? It's more expensive because there are less of those stores here. My wife was craving a box of these noodles, and you know how much these cost? These cost 20 bucks, okay? I don't know if it's inflation. I don't know if it's the fact that we're in the Midwest now, but these did not cost 20 bucks back in Southern California.
Oh, you're paying way too much for worms, man. Who's your worm guy?
These noodles will give you heartburn. They'll shorten your life, but for 20 bucks, that's way too much. Another thing about eating, it just seems like there are so many places here that close super, super early. Whose idea is it to have a restaurant that closes at 6 o'clock p.m.? I have no clue. It's actually very common here. Remember those 2 a.m. In-N-Out runs that I used to do in California? Well, you're not gonna find anything open at 2 a.m. unless it's some nasty McDonald's that doesn't even get your order right. So if you're a late night snacker, if you're a late night muncher, then you're not gonna wanna live here. And also, if you're looking for nightlife here, if you're looking for parties, all that kind of stuff, everything shuts down by 9 o'clock p.m. Now, full disclosure, I'm a dad, so my idea of a late night is 3 episodes of Bluey before I put my kids down at 8 o'clock p.m. Okay, that's wild and crazy for me because the kids get all jazzed up and they want to play, they don't want to sleep. Okay, that's crazy for me. I don't go out, I don't party anymore, I don't do the same kind of stuff that I did when I was younger, so I may not have first-hand experience out of all these little bars and nooks and crannies and stuff like that, but whenever we want to go out we do find that so many things are closed by 9 o'clock p.m. Which leads us to reason number 10. I mentioned my kids. One of the things that really scares them out here is the bugs. There's a ton of bugs in the Midwest. We have cicadas in the summer. They look like little demons, and they're super, super loud. They honestly kind of scare me. One almost got in our house, and I thought I had to burn the house down to get rid of it. Okay, we got these big old spiders that are all around. In fact, we got a spider in our window right now. His name is Emerson. We've watched him grow for a long time, and he's actually getting kind of freaky right now. We probably want to kill him. Now, if you're moving from the south and you got the spiders as big as your hands, yeah, we don't got those. But if you're moving from a place like California where we don't have that big of a bugs, then you know what? There's a ton of bugs here. And guess what? Mosquitoes everywhere, all the time, especially when it gets warm. It's super, super annoying. So you stayed until the very end and you're a single person. The thing that you're gonna wanna know about Kansas City is that we have been voted the worst city for dating in America.
I get to lay in a bed by myself all of my life. It's fantastic.
How they came up with that metric, I have no clue, but it's notoriously bad for dating. So I don't know if you're gonna get on those dating apps and you're not gonna find anybody to your liking. I have no clue, but there have been multiple articles that have detailed Kansas City as the worst city for dating. So do with that what you will. If you're coming here to get married, you're probably not gonna have that much luck.